So here it is, the very last video. Well, of this series anyway. Let's get into it. Welcome to Learn to Play Infinity N5 from the Infinity Institute, from the Dice Gods. My name is Hydra, and today we are at the last of this series. At this point, if you followed the series through, hopefully you are playing Infinity with a degree of confidence and competence that lets you enjoy the game, lets you see the beauty within all the rule books and all the rules and the stats and cheats and all the rest of it, all the tokens and all that sort of good stuff, and you're having fun and generally enjoying the experience. I hope so. For all of you that have joined so far, thank you so much for joining me on this epic odyssey of way too many videos and way too many hours. I really appreciate you spending your time and really hope it's helped. Of course, thanks go to Patrons and members who've made this possible. Their support, enthusiasm and feedback has helped immensely, and for that they've got bonus content, videos and downloads and bits and pieces, which is all available to them and will be available to you if you join today, which you should. But specifically, I need to say thank you to Sean Colburn, Old Man Rogers, Chaos Discordia, Runic Wolf, Chris Sexton, Riker6, and Kaz for being the highest tier that we have at the moment. But thank you to all of the patrons and members who don't get a mention here, because you guys just help and it makes life better. But now, enough of that. We are going to talk about some general hints and tips for this last video. Things that can help make your life easier as you take your first dizzying steps into the heights of playing Infinity N5. With some of these hints and tips, you will have heard them in previous videos, but they are fundamental, so I'll mention them again for the sake of completeness, and for those of you who are only coming into this video as the first starting point of Infinity in this series. You should go back to the start and do the whole thing. It all builds to a lovely picture, trust me, it's great. But let's get into it. Let's first talk about some things that you can do pre-game, some little hints and tips that can make your life a little bit better. First of all, you're new to the game. If you're playing the missions from the ITS packs, which you should definitely do, the downloadable PDF, which is free on the website, and that's linked in the comments below. There are different complexities, details, depths of mission that you can play. For your first 10, dozen, keep life simple. Keep it easier. I don't mean play the same one over and over, but you will find that there are missions like supplies, firefight, supremacy, and maybe even highly classified, which they will give you a range of different ways to play the game. Supplies is a specialist push button grab thing run. Firefight is killing specialists and lieutenants, supremacy is holding quads on the board, and highly classified is just specialist spam random draw. Those four will give you lots of different ways to play the game. They'll give you very different experiences of playing the system, which is great. However, Frostbite, Biotech Vor, Last Launch, Mind Wipe, those can be a pain in the butt. They have a lot of, they either require a very specific playstyle, a very specific type of list, a very specific approach, or they have rules that kind of require a lot of sort of remembering and thinking about and strategizing around. Those ones specifically can be really challenging the first time you play them. It will be a lot easier if the first time you play them, you are comfortable playing missions, you are comfortable with playing Infinity to a greater extent. So to start off with, keep your missions simple before you get to the table. Do yourself a favour. You'll still have fun, you'll still have lots of variety, but don't give yourself a headache in the process. We've said this one before, know your mission. Before you step up to the table, be clear how you score, when you score, who can score, who gets bonuses to score, what matters in the mission. That's so, so important. Having clarity of that before you start writing a list, before you even get to that point, will make you a better player. It will make you more successful in your missions. And if you plan to go to tournaments and things like that, it's a cornerstone. So many players I have seen be unsuccessful at Infinity because they come to the table and go, so I score, what are we even doing? Losing. That is what you're doing. I think I've mentioned it before, but last launch, which we mentioned, is a mission where you have to get a specialist that goes up to a console, boops a button to get a ticket, gives that ticket to the other people run to the central console, use the ticket to take off, and you win mostly by having the most units off the board. The first time I played it, my opponent didn't come ready. He brought a generic list, turned up with one specialist, who died in the first turn. He then has no way of scoring, because he needs a specialist to boot the box, to get the ticket, and his specialist is dead. That's it. The only thing he can hope to achieve is to stop me scoring, but I already had people off the board. The game was done. The second a bullet went into a specialist's head, that was it. It was over. So knowing your mission is crucial. Really, really, really know it inside out. And with that, our next hint, create a plan. We've talked about it. You should have a plan for, now I know what the mission is, how I'm going to achieve that, how I want to achieve that. There are many different ways to approach a mission that you can get it done for the most part. If it's just kill everything, I mean, you can choose what type of bullet you're going to stick in someone, but it's relatively straightforward. But if you have a need for specialists or a need for different ways of, you have a variety of ways you can approach the mission, have a plan of how you want to do that. It will make it much easier to approach the game, to approach your list, if you have sort of a loose concept. So recently I played a game of Acquisition. Acquisition is a game where you have 3 consoles in the middle, like 2 consoles and a tech coffin. At the end of the game, you score points at the end of the game for having people in base-to-base contact with each of those 3 and for having booped the consoles. That's what you score for. So my plan for that was to spend the entire game distracting my opponent so that he had to spend his orders dealing with my troops, or what he thought were my troops, speed bumping the mid-board and just generally slowing him down so he couldn't get into position in a comfortable position, with my plan being, last turn, I'm going to walk a guy on here and push the button, I'm going to walk a guy over there and hold that, I'm going to walk a guy on there if I can and hold that. That's the whole plan. I'm just going to be controlling of my opponent's turn and just make them burn their orders so that, end of the game, I can just do what I want to do, because he's either got nothing left or he's so out of position because he's been dealing with bad stuff. That's what I wanted to get. That was a nice clear plan. Another way you could play that mission is, I want to get on those at the start of the game and then pin my opponent back in their half and not let them get close to the boxes. Or I want to get onto the boxes and then kill everything and just alpha strike everything off the board. Airborne deployment straight into their deployment zone, spitfires and explosives everywhere, everything dies. Haha, you can't capture the boxes, you're all dead. There are multiple different ways, but having that plan, having that clarity of vision and the way that you want to deal with it will help you write your list. The next hint and tip is something that in my local community's WhatsApp group, there is a little sticker of my face with this written underneath that is occasionally fired at me and frequently fired at other people in the community. And that is the 2 words, it depends. Remember in Infinity that everything depends. There are better units, but there is not a best unit, because it depends. It depends on the mission you're playing, your opponent, what else is in your list, how you plan to do it, your plan. All of this comes into play with how useful a certain thing will be. So, and the table, the way of the situation you're in, there are so many variables inside of Infinity. Remember that while there can be better choices, there is not a best choice. And when you're writing a list, if you want to include X and you put it in there and your opponent says, well, that's rubbish, I wouldn't take that. Cool, you wouldn't take that. This is part of my plan. It does a specific thing. I know the specific thing. As long as you can understand why it's there and you see what it's for, that is more beneficial than, statistically speaking, in a firefight between this and a house, don't care. What I plan to do with it is this, and it's perfect for that one job. That is what it's going to be great at. Perfect. It depends. Everything depends. Don't take anything as black and white in law. It's not. It doesn't work that way. So, from there, let's talk about some tips for in-game. And let's start with choosing a side of the board. Okay, you've done your initiative roll, you're choosing deployment. Now your opponent's going to deploy first, because unless you're absolutely a monster, you're going to make them deploy first. But which side do you choose? There should, in most instances, an infinity board be an advantageous side and a disadvantageous side. That can be one side that's more defensible, or this kind of thing. But don't look at it as just that. Okay? You want to take the side of the board which has the best tactical options, the best choices for your plan. So if you look at the board and there is a hoofing great tower at the back of the field that can see everywhere and it's the perfect sniper point and all this kind of stuff, okay, that's great, that's interesting. It's going to dominate the board. But I don't have a sniper rifle, so that's not an advantage to me. Or I have a sniper rifle, but actually he's part of a fire team that's going to have to move around the board. So sticking a sniper on top of a tower either takes him out of the fire team, which he's there to be part of that fire team, or puts the whole fire team in the tower, which is a lot of troops that are not going to be coming down. They're going to spend their entire game on top of it. That's of no use whatsoever. Likewise, if you see one board edge, which is clearly the advantageous side, but is quite close quarters, and you know that you're going second, and you know that most of your weaponry is a longer range, you don't have template weapons, you don't have flamethrower weapons, then that sort of close quarters environment is disadvantageous to your army. So choose the side of the board which ideally is advantageous generally, but is specifically useful to your army in the way you want to play. If you have a clear vision of a plan, and you use that to write a list based on a mission that you know you're going to play, then you should be able to look at the board and go, okay, this side works better for me with what I'm going to get up to. Don't care about you, don't care about the other side, this bit works for me. Which takes us nice down to deploying. When it comes to deployment, deploy to your plan. Deploy to what you want to do. So if you are, for example, planning to shoot your enemy off the board, you plan to just obliterate them, let's just get that alpha strike in, cruise missile down one board edge and go ham, go violence, putting everybody right on the back edge of the board, not useful. Deploy in a way that helps and supports your plan. And that also means things like, if you have troopers who are there to be cheerleaders, they're there to generate orders, don't stick them in a position where they're vulnerable. Stick them on top of a building, stick them prone. At deployment, stick them out of the way. Stick them in a way that they can't be gotten to easily and comfortably. Deploy in a way that every trooper that's put on the board supports the plan that you have created and can be useful towards that. As a sidebar as well, as an additional point as well, you should deploy flexibly. What that means is, let's say you're deploying first. You put all your stuff down, you have a tag on the right hand side, snug behind a building. Okay? Your opponent knows it's right on the board edge, it's behind the building, it's just there, right on the board edge. Cool, it's all nicely in cover. Outstanding. Your opponent knows that tag is going to have to move round that corner. The only way that it can go is across here. So I'm going to stick a couple of missile launchers over there, and if it comes around the corner, I'm going to nuke it off the face of the earth, because there's only one way that it's going. Then you can hold the whole double bluff. Well, if you do that, then what I've done is, it's better to put your units in a position where they have a choice of different routes. This not only ensures they're going to survive a little bit longer, but it also means your opponent doesn't know what you're planning. If there is only one possible route for that unit to go, then that clearly is the way that unit's going to go, and that clearly is part of your plan, and that's clearly what you're trying to achieve first turn. Okay, well, I'll counter that then. And then you either need to burn orders to reposition those troopers in a different direction because this is now blocked off. There's an objective in the middle of the field. There's camo markers around it. There's crazy koalas on it. Oh, I can't go that way anymore. Deploy your troopers in a way that they have flexibility of routes that they can go. They have choices they can make. And so your opponent can't see what you're planning. They can have a guess, but they don't know. Deploying flexible is important. In game, I mentioned this way back at the start of the series. Processes, order declaration, attack processes, face-to-face rolls, dice rolls, saving rolls, all this kind of stuff. Get them right. Get it instinctive. Get it drilled into your head so that you say it in your sleep. Those processes are a step-by-step route to successful play. Not just winning, but so that your opponent is always engaged. So there's never a moment where your opponent's like, no, hang on, I'd have ARO'd with this, or getting your declarations, getting your processes clean and smooth and tight and focused. And second nature means that instead of thinking, okay, so I've done this, what do I do next? You can concentrate on your tactics, you can concentrate on your plan and what you're acting on the board with. If you play long enough, they fade. You need to constantly invest energy in making sure that you're declaring properly and you're doing your processes properly and you're showing your opponent what you're doing, especially if you're playing with a local community where you all get comfortable and you play in a certain way. You'll start being like, okay, so 4 dice and boom, there's no discussion of success value. Why do we do the success value? Because your opponent should know what that is. It should be declared beforehand. You should be clear on what it is to make sure you've not missed anything. The number of times I've seen people say, okay, so, okay, well, I'm hitting on 13s. Okay, cool, I've hit you 3 times, right, he's dead, da, da, da. And then a little while later, the opponent's like, yeah, I was really shocked you got through on a 13 with that MSV, with the mimetism -6 on that unit. Sorry, I had mimetism -6. Yeah, oh, no, okay, well, I didn't take that into account. And suddenly you have a problem. Having your processes where you turn around to them and say, okay, so I am BS 13 and +3 for range, you're -3 for cover, so I'm hitting on 13s. And they go, mimetism? Oh, okay, I'm hitting on 7s. It makes a better experience for all involved and you avoid those situations where you assume that you're correct and you're not. So get your processes down, perfect, beautiful. It's important, it matters. It will always matter. Next, use controlled aggression. So, Infinity is a violent, bloody game. It will always be thus, and that is why we love it. There's bits and pieces everywhere. With that said, if you have a plan, if you are executing a specific set of objectives for your turn, do so. There is nothing more wasteful than trying to engage a tag. Let's say you're trying to shoot a tag up with an HMG and you throw 3 orders at it and it's making all its saves and you're missing a bit and it's not going really well. There can come a point where you're like, okay, this isn't working. I have to go over here now. No. You were destroying the tag for a purpose. And assuming that purpose was part of your plan and a good part of your plan, the purpose remains. If you've thrown 3 orders at it and it's been unsuccessful, you should be doing this in a way that is to your advantage. I'm in good range. I'm in good cover. They're out of cover. You should be stacking the odds in your favour. If you've done all that, keep going. Just because the dice hate you, and sometimes they will. I mentioned that acquisition game earlier. I think I threw 3 orders with an HMG, intruder heavy machine gun. He was hitting on 16 or less. And in those 3, maybe 4 orders, he hit once per dice roll. It's 4 orders. It's 4 orders. So he had 16 dice at 16 or less, and he hit 4 times. There's nothing you can do in that situation. It happens. But the point was, he still had a job. He was still there to kill certain units. He was still on mission. He was still alive. He was still able to achieve it. And yes, it did cost me more orders than I would have wanted, and it did kneecap the rest of the plans I had for that turn, but it was ultimately successful. I completed that side of the objective, and it saw my opponent, I think, lose. I think in the end, by the time my intruder was done, he lost 3 orders and a quas creature and stuff like that. It was successful. It just took longer. If the plan is good, even if the dice are not, if your trooper is still up and still able to continue with that, unless there is an incredibly compelling reason to shift focus, then stick with the plan, execute the plan, controlled aggression, keep going. It can be hard, and it does suck. But if your plan was good, complete your plan. Finally, this part of the video, stay in the game. Infinity is way more than most other systems that I know. Violent, and you're going to lose a lot of troopers. They're going to die. You're going to lose key troopers. It's going to suck. And there comes a point where you can feel that the game is done. You've lost your key hit pieces. You're down to 2 specialists, and they're not the ones that get the bonuses. It's generally just been a bit rubbish. Okay, it happens. That sucks. I'm sorry to hear it. But if you still have orders, if you're not in retreat, you are still in the game. If you are still in the game, you can still potentially win, if not minimize what your opponent can do and stop them winning harder. There are things that you can do. There are lessons you can learn. It is possible, even just being down to a bunch of combi rifle wielding cheerleaders, to pull a victory out of nowhere, or to pull a draw out of nowhere. It happens. This is Infinity, is what the game does. So stay in the game. Yes, take a moment to curse the dice gods, complain about how rubbish it all is, feel how much it sucks that that tag blew up and then you lost this and the engineer died on the way into healing it and then yeah, it sucks. Feel that, acknowledge that, then back in the game, you still have orders, you still have agency, you have things you can do. Embrace that, go off, kick some ass, do some violence, do a win, because you never know. And I have certainly been in situations where I have felt that the game was done and then I've won because I kept my head in the game. So always keep your head in the game. Don't let your brain go out. So I've got a few more for members. We're just going to talk about those. If you're not a member, you should be, because this is why, because they're about to get another 5. You've got 10 and they're going to get 15. You know, is that a good reason? You'll never know if you don't sign up. So links below if you're not a member. But members, let's carry on. I have more for you. So there you go. Some hints and tips for all of you for playing Infinity N5. There is a lot more to come from the Infinity Institute, much as the Learning to Play N5 series is now done, and we do hope you enjoyed it. There is a lot more to come from this series. We are going to look at specific skills and abilities. The other day I was asked about suppressive fire, how to use suppressive fire aggressively, sensibly, what it's for, what it's not for. We're going to talk about that one. In those type of videos, we'll talk about how to use it and how to counter it. So those will be there. We're also going to start doing faction focuses where we're going to deal with lore. We're going to deal with standout units inside of each particular faction. We'll talk about fire teams, and then we can talk about some list ideas. For members, there will be more list ideas and there'll be more in-depth tactical information and usage for those particular faction focuses when they come out. So look forward to those coming soon. But aside from that, thank you so much for joining me on this journey into learning Infinity N5. We hope that you enjoyed it. Please do like, share and subscribe if you do. And yeah, let us know what you thought in the comments below, and we will see you all again soon.